Today, we are going to study a new topic of discussion based on the earlier topic which we have studied. You know that we understood stored procedures. What were stored procedures? Procedures were multiple SQL statements, multiple SQL logics which were being stored at one place so that I can use it for the later purpose for execution for multiple tasks which were there. But can these stored procedures be further modified? Can they be further used? And can they be further utilized by any other operation? The answer is yes. We have a concept which we are going to study today is nothing but triggers. Now, what are triggers? Triggers are automated stored procedures. Now, what is the meaning of automated? An automated stored procedures which will execute without a lot of human intervention over here. So, this is what a trigger is. Triggers are nothing but automated stored procedures which are used to do n number of tasks in the real world scenario. You all must have seen that example of triggers in your day-to-day life. So now let me also help you understand the same with one simplistic example. Imagine that today I am going on any site, and when I go on to the site, it is asking me for login. Imagine that I go on to the site of HackerRank and I wanted to start practice for the same. So when I go over there, I cannot directly start it. It will definitely ask me to what login. So when I create my login ID, I create my sign-in IDs. It can be name, email ID, phone number, LinkedIn profile, many things. I inserted my data and I sign up over there. So when I sign up, let's say it's 12 at night when I wanted to do a practice. When I sign up, definitely my inbox will be having a mail for me. Now, when this mail will be welcome to HackerRank or HackerRank is a bedside for something. So there is some auto triggered message given to me by HackerRank once I sign up into their profile, which is there. So imagine if someone was sitting over there and he or she is sitting and waiting for you to sign up and then give you the automated mail. It will definitely take time for that user to understand, okay, you guys have signed up, then take your mail ID and generate an auto generated mail and send it across to you. It will take human intervention somewhat, but that human intervention has been cut down by the professionals. What they have did, as soon as the user sign in up, the auto generated mail will be given to the user, but that will be given once you sign up. It will not be given before you sign up. So this automated processes needs to be maintained, needs to be managed very efficiently, and that's what triggers do. Triggers are automated stored procedures. So the logic for writing this has been stored. Once you insert your data, update your data, or delete your data, this is going to save the changes for you. Imagine that when you are writing and working on your Excel file, you have opened the Excel file, you have made some changes, and when you try to close the file, don't you think so pop-up comes to your screen? Do you want to save the changes which you have made? So the updates are being made. And do you want to save it? The answer would be yes. So when you do save, and that updates would be saved. So there was an auto-generated pop-up which arose over there. Was it an automated trigger? Yes, it was an automated trigger. Imagine that today you're deleting certain files, and before deleting, it deleted and then it is asking you, do you want to delete this file? What is the purpose of asking after deletion? Because the file has been deleted over here. So triggers needs to be carefully used with respect to insert, update and delete, that is a DML statements into the databases. But triggers are also used before and after the DML statements, which means triggers cannot always be executed after the statement. It needs to be sometime executed or sometime popped before the delete has happened so far. So that is the meaning of what? That is the meaning of triggers. Triggers are automated stored procedures over here. Let's try to understand with the code, with the example which I have brought to you, and let me show you how does trigger works before and after with respect to insert, update as well as delete. If you can see on my screen, triggers. Triggers are events or conditions that cause a program or a system to execute a specific action or a set of action. So what it is doing, it is performing some action, some steps, some processes, or a set of action or a set of instruction. when some or the other action or the task is being done on the databases. They are commonly used in software development. In the field of software, it is a very common use case and a widely used case. You can see triggers running around you a lot, but you don't know the logic which they are being using. They're using the logic of stored procedures somewhat, because the process of doing those tasks or the actions have been stored within the databases with the help of something called as stored procedures. So they are commonly used in software development and database management to automate processes and respond to specific events. So they respond to definitely specific events and they will work accordingly. As I said, when I as a user enroll on a HackerRank platform, they will respond once I enroll and give me a welcome email kit. If I want to delete a file, a pop-up or a trigger will automate and it will ask me, are you sure, do you want to delete the file or not? So that task or that responses are being generated when the triggers are activated on certain operations which we are doing. In software development, triggers can be used to execute code logic when a specific event occurs, such as button click or a certain condition being met. For the example which I showed you. For example, a trigger may be set up to execute a specific function when a user submits a form or certain file is updated. So when I submit a form, you know that there is a pop-up coming, your file is successfully submitted, your file is successfully uploaded. So that is a trigger which is coming when the task is being executed or certain file is uploaded over here. In database management system, triggers are used to automate tasks such as updating data, enforcing business rules, or maintaining data integrity. So in order to maintain all of this in database management system, triggers are very widely used. For example, a trigger may be used to set up update on customer balance in a database when a new transaction is recorded. You remember when there is a trigger which is executed. Let's say today I send some money to some other individual. Definitely a pop-up message will come to me that money has been transferred. It will also show you the account details or the bank related statement that this much amount has been debited or the credited into your account based on whatever transaction has been happened. So you see triggers into daily life a lot, and with respect to the data management system, triggers are very important to automate the task so that the human intervention is avoided as much as possible and the data is maintained with full integrity. So, triggers can be set up to execute response to a variety of events and conditions, especially with respect to insert, update, and delete. So that is your DMS statement, such as specific date or time, a change in data, or a specific user. They are powerful tool for automating processes and improving efficiency in software development and the data management tool. So for the same, I'm creating a trigger which I'll show with respect to insert, update, and delete. So I have a table, if you remember a table which we created with respect to the stored procedure, that was students. So I'll show you the table which was there, select star from what? From students. So this is a students table which is there. Now I'm creating triggers, but before creating a trigger, I'm creating a log table. Now what is this log table consisting of? This log table will consist of the messages when my trigger is activated, when my trigger is successfully running or the automative task has been completed successfully. So I don't have to go to the table and see the data. I can definitely go and see to the log table that what changes have happened. So I've created a log table, create table students log. It has log ID, that is an ID, it's an integer. So step by step as the updates happen, the log ID will be created. It's a primary key. So every change is a different change or a unique entity is being stored. Student ID. Which student ID changes have happened over here? Action, what action it is doing, is it doing insertion, updation, or deletion, that will be stored over here, and timestamp, at what date, at what time this action happened. So I have, if I want to see okay what operations happen at that particular time, I can go to the log table instead of going to the main table to see what operations have happened. So I'm creating a trigger. Now the syntax for trigger looks very similar to what stored procedure is. It will have delimiter, it will have begin and end statement. But instead of writing create procedure, you'll write create trigger, because triggers are slightly different from what a stored procedure is. It's an adaptive way of stored procedure, I can say. So create trigger. What is a trigger name? After insert student. Definitely imagine in Immaticus, new students are enrolling on a daily basis. Once the student enrollment is done, I want to send a welcome mail to that student, that welcome to Immaticus, that what all things you will learn, you will explore, what all things do we have. So there is a welcome message needs to be sent. But definitely this welcome message needs to be sent after the student has enrolled, not before the student has enrolled. I don't know which student is going to come and enroll into my site. So the same type of trigger, I'm creating it over here. I'm giving it a name as after insert trigger. So it will activate after a student entry has been inserted. So after insert on what? On students, which is there. So for each row, definitely this insert will happen row wise. So for each row, this is going to be activated. So after insert, you will write over here. If you want before insert, so before you will write. If you want after insert, it will be activated. So you will write after insert. So here you will write insert, update or delete. It depends on you that what you wanted to do. On which table do you want to activate this trigger? You want to activate this trigger on the students table. So there is a students table. You can see a trigger activated. So far there is no trigger. Once we create, you can see the name of the triggers which are there. So for each row, begin the creation of triggers. Now what it will do? Insert into student log. So once you are inserting data into students table, this trigger will start executing for each row. As you enter each row into your students table, this trigger will be activated for each row. So begin what? Begin insert into which table do you want? It is in students table. I have student ID, I have action and the timestamp. You remember the student log table which we had created? This is a table. Now values, what it is going to store. The new ID. Now new is a keyword which will have the new ID stored into the students table. So new dot student ID, the new ID which is added. And what is the message which I want to give? Your record is inserted. So if the action is successfully done, your record is inserted. And then what is the timestamp? Now. That is current date and time when this action happened. And I close the delimiter over here. So when I execute it, you can see a trigger being created known as after. Now the triggers are being created. I cannot call the trigger over here. Triggers are just an automated stored procedure. So it will only execute when the certain task of the trigger are being done. You cannot do select star from after insert students or call after insert student. It is not going to give me any outcome over here. Now students log table. What I have written, just a second, I have created this. Yeah, students log table. So you remember that what is this trigger saying? Ki when a new entry is inserted into students table, I don't have to go and see into students table. I can see the students log table that which entry has been inserted. So that's what I can do over here. So insert into students. Now you can see students table we have. This is a students table which we have. So I'm inserting a student with student roll number 118, name of the student as Sakshi, subject as Hindi, and the marks are 34. So do you think so it is successfully executed? Yes, it has successfully executed. If I see select star from students, do you think so Sakshi has been inserted? Yes. But if I want to see, does student log consist the trigger over here? Can you see this? The first lock has been added. Student ID, what has been added? 9. Action, what is an action? Your record is inserted. Timestamp, what is the timestamp over here? When did it inserted? The date and the time when this record has successfully inserted the data into the table. So this is what it is shown over here with respect to after insert. Now, if there is any issue, let's say I insert another data. So select star from students. If I do this, and let's say I write 10119, and let's say I write my name. My name is Jagrati, and let's say my subject is physics. So I write like this, and let's say I got a score of 45 over here. And when I try to insert, can you see column count does not match value count at row 1. So there was an error. So does this action successfully happen? No. Because I have added which trigger over here? After. So once the action was successfully done on the students, then and only then it will store on the students log table, unless it is not going to store for me. And you can see that the students log table still doesn't consist of the same. It asks me what if the error was there, then it is not going to add. But if I would have written a before trigger, it would have successfully added that student ID, whatever it was, has been successfully added. Your action is inserted. So it is very important to use a before or an after trigger for the same. So here, you remember students table. Let me show that first ID is student ID. So let me give the student ID as 10. Student roll number is this, the name of the student is this, subject is this, and marks is this. Now when I execute it, can you see one row has been affected? So execution in the students table have happened, but I'll not go and see the students table. I'll go and see in which table? Students log table. So can you see in students log table 2 dot student ID. Which new ID has been added over here? 10. So I wrote what? New dot student ID. So whatever was the newest recent ID has been added over here. So your record has been inserted. So I hope we are clear upon how does a trigger works on an insert. Let me try to create a trigger with respect to update over here as well as delete. So this trigger which I am using over here is going to be used after update. So same syntax. There is no difference over here. The same syntax I have used. So create trigger. Which trigger? After update student. So I have changed the name. After insert students, I have changed the name to after update students. And instead of before, I am still using what? After. Because I want the trigger to be activated only when the update has happened. I don't want to be activated before the update has happened. So after update on what? On the students table. Where I want to go and check for each row. Definitely the update will happen row wise. So I want to check all the rows with respect to the updation. Begin. Insert into students. Student ID, action, timestamp, same code. Values, now update. Obviously a new data would be added, a new modified value would be there. So new dot what? Student ID. So which student ID update was happening over here? So I'll get this. And what is a message which I want to pass into the student log table? Your record has been updated. And when it did update it? Now. So let me create this trigger over here for you. And you can see I have one more trigger after update students. So if I go to select star from students, let me see select star from students, which are there. So can you see the students table? Yes. I have what? I have to change the name of a student. I have to change the name of the student where the student ID is 5. What is the 5 student ID? Prachi. Now I want to change her name to what? Rashi, subject to what? Science, and the marks to what? 39. So I'm updating 3 values at once. So set student name as Rashi, subject as science, marks as 39 for what? For the student ID 5. So if the action is successfully done, can you see there was no error? So it's done. So if I see student ID 5, can you see earlier it was Prachi with Hindi as a subject. Now it's what? It's Rashi. So it has been updated. So can I see student log table over here? Can you see log ID 3, the third change which has happened? Student ID, which is a student ID which has happened the change? 5. What has happened? Student record is updated. And when did it happen? So you can see, instead of going to the main table where changes have happened, I can see the log table where the trigger has been activated and the information has been stored. Now let's try to create another trigger related to delete. Now what will delete do over here for us? Obviously, when I'm deleting certain records, I want the trigger to be activated. So after the delete, the trigger should activate. So create trigger after delete student, the name has been changed. After delete, I can write before delete as well. So before deleting, if you want to the trigger to be activated, you can do it. Delete on students for each row. Definitely I want to do for each row. I can do for each column as well, but we mostly preferably do it for each row. Begin. Insert into student log. Obviously, when the data is deleted, student log needs to be inserted with some message. Student ID, action, timestamp. Now values. Now instead of new, I'm writing old. Now remember, when I'm deleting certain data, it's an old data, it's a past data which has been deleted. It's not a new entry which has been added or updated. So in insert and update, you will write new. But in your delete, you'll write old because it has been something which is removed. It's a past. So old student ID, your record has been deleted. And when did it deleted? Now. So I execute this and you can see there is a after delete student created. So when I run the students table, it's there. Let's say wherever the student name is Rashi, I'm deleting it. It was student ID 5 where I made the changes from Prachi to Rashi, and this data is now being eliminated. Instead of going to students table and checking, I'll see the log table because log table would have updated. What is the log table saying? Yes, 5 as a student ID has been deleted over here. And when did it deleted? This. So this is what a trigger is. I didn't go and put the message manually over here. When the actions related to insert, update and delete were happening within my databases, these actions were automatically stored into my log table so that I can get to see, okay, what has happened into my data and how the actions have happened. So my triggers can activate automatically before and after insert. It depends on you that you want it to execute before, do you want it to execute after. The example which I showed were purely having the detailness related to the after trigger execution because I don't want the trigger to be executed and giving me the message before the insert has happened. Imagine a scenario when you have not even signed up and that it is giving you congratulations, welcome for the sign up, hello, hi, this is your welcome kit for the employees who have added into the organization. The employee is not even a part of organization, and before that only welcome kit is shared. It will be problematic for the same. So after trigger is a better choice over here instead of before. Now imagine that I am updating a file and without update it says the file has been updated. I didn't even do any update. What is the possibility that I have updated it? So I want the trigger to be activated before, not after, or after, not before. It also depends on me. Let's say I want the trigger to be activated after the update has happened. That is an ideal scenario. So my trigger would be updated over here. Let's say delete. I want the trigger to show once an outcome is deleted. Let's say there was an error when the delete happened, but the trigger said the record has been deleted. But my data still has that record because there was an error. If I use before trigger at that particular time, it would have shown me error in terms of the log table outcome, which was being stored by the trigger approach. So this was all about triggers, that this is how a triggers are created, this is how a triggers are maintained, and this is how the triggers can be automatically stored. Now, this were very simple example related to how a trigger can be created. Definitely in the real world scenario, the procedures for creating triggers are a lot complicated. the logics for creating triggers are a lot complicated, and in the field of software development, triggers are something which is very vividly used. So triggers can be used to automate your task and remove the human intervention as much as possible, and it is working with insert, update and delete most of the times with respect with before execution as well as after execution. So this was all about triggers, and I hope we are able to understand what are triggers with the simplistic example which we saw today. So we are done with triggers.